We're back.
to do all the other notable people in this cemetery, at your request. So here we go. This cemetery is part of Craig Scott Irish Settlement, founded in 1728. The cemetery is the oldest cemetery in Northampton County. And here's John Ralston. John was born about 1735. He was the son of James Ralston and Mary Ralston. He married Christina King Ralston. John was a delegate from Northampton, Pennsylvania, to the Provisional Convention in Carpenter's Hall, the Constitutional Convention of 1776, and the Continental Congress. He was an American Revolutionary War veteran and paymaster to the militia in 1781. He was the auditor of depreciated accounts for Northampton County, Pennsylvania. His children were Andrew Ralston, Anne Ralston Berry, Christina Ralston, Jane Ralston, John Ralston, Letita Ralston Martin, Mary Polly Ralston, Robert Ralston, Samuel F. Ralston, and Captain James Ralston. And here is Thomas Humphrey. Thomas was the son of Dr. Charles H. Humphrey and Elizabeth Stanton Humphrey. He had a sister, Mary Ellen Hinkson, and a brother, William J. Humphrey, both born in Cherryville, Northampton County, Pennsylvania. Thomas's brother, Wyndham Redden Humphrey, was born in St. John, New Brunswick, Canada. The 15th PA was also known as Anderson's Cavalry, which was an independent company of hand-picked PA volunteers which reported directly to the Army of the Cumberland. Their job was to escort, scout, courier, picket duty, gathered forage, particularly beef for the Army, and corn for its horses and mules. The men were authorized to wear a distinctive dragon-style shell jacket. The group served in at least 12 battles in 3 years. The regiment became known as Palmer's Owls. After it pursued the supply trains of Hood's army, catching and destroying all its platoons near Russellville, Alabama, on December 31st, and more than 300 wagons that day and the first day of 1865. The regiment captured General Braxton Bragg and his staff and pursued Confederate President Jefferson Davis through Georgia. The 15th Pennsylvania Cavalry Regiment was mustered at Nashville, Tennessee on June 21, 1865. Total casualties were 3 officers and 125 enlisted men. Thomas picked up camp disease, like so many others. Diseases were the leading cause of death during the Civil War. Thomas had TB that was in remission when coming home at the end of the war, but it came back in 1866. Despite his father being a doctor, Thomas died of TB at the age of 23 years, 1 month, and 2 days. He gave all to keep his country united. And here lays James Ralston. James was born in Ireland about 1698. He was married to Mary Cummock. He built Fort Ralston on his property around 1763. James built the first stone house in the settlement. He surveyed and made a plan for the town of Bath. The fort was not called Fort Brown, nor was it on Brown's property. Remains are visible from the Norbath Trail, or the southwest point of Frank's Corner mini warehouse development. Later on, the property was owned by Samuel Archambault, and now by Mr. Jandal. From photos in the lay of the land, this author knows the exact location of the blockhouse. The date of the fort itself was never recorded. Arguments are for before 1763, during or after 1763, but most scholars believe it was prior to 1763, during the French and Indian War, around the fall of 1755. No actual fights ever took place. A description of the fort, according to Dr. James, was that it had a stone foundation 7 to 8 feet high. Then there was a layer of logs on top of the stone, like an overshot barn. One source stated that when the fort was no longer needed, the logs were used in local houses, including his daughter's stone barn house. James died in 1775 at the age of 76. Here lies James Clyde, but he was known as Old Squire Clyde. James was the son of John Clyde. He married Hannah Horner, daughter of Joseph Horner. They moved to Washington County, Pennsylvania. They had a daughter that died on December 12, 1804. A son, Joseph, was born next in April 4th of 1806. His mother died after his birth. James took Joseph to settlement to be cared for by family members. The two lived there from 1806 to 1840, when James moves to Lancaster and leaves Joseph behind. James then married his second wife, Susan Downing, and in 1841 they returned to the settlement until his death in 1866. James was also known, like I said, as Old Squire Clyde. John Walker Sr. John was born in Ireland. He went to Bucks County, Pennsylvania with his parents about 1724. John moved to Craig's Scottish-Irish settlement as one of the founders in 1728. He served as a soldier during the French and Indian War. He provided grain for the colonial army in 1776. He had ties to the affairs with Northampton County, and he was married to Mary Ann Blackburn. They had 5 children. The first one, William, who inherited his Uncle Richard Walker's land in Bucks County under interstate laws, being the eldest son of the eldest brother. The second child, Jane Walker, then Ann Walker, Mary Ann, and John Jr. The most prominent citizen buried here is General Robert Brown, the son of Samuel Brown, and one of the first 13 people to settle here in 1728. Robert Brown was born December 25, 1744. With the approach of the war, Robert Brown and his neighbors joined the Northampton militia. The chaplain of the unit was Reverend John Roseborough, a Presbyterian minister. Their training was basic, but with courage and determination, they would engage the British Army on many Revolutionary War battlefields. Brown would be promoted to lieutenant, and with his comrades fought bravely only to be captured in New York by the British at Fort Washington. They were imprisoned in an old church. The conditions were horrible. For the first few days, they were given wormy crackers to eat. While in prison, Brown used his blacksmith skills and actually used what funds he had to buy food for the prisoners. Hundreds perished. Brown was later transferred and held on the British ship Judith. Eventually he was paroled, pledging not to join the militia again. Brown returned to the militia and was promoted to general. During his service he met General George Washington, and they became friends. The war was costly. Many men were lost, including Roseborough, who was captured at the Battle of Trenton and executed. General Brown would be invited to Mount Vernon, where General George Washington presented a gift of 2 chestnut trees. One was named the Friendship Tree. The majestic tree was damaged by lightning in 1921. Today, it is a symbol on the East Allen Township flag. When General Brown returned home, he married and built a home in Allen Township. In 1842, a section of Allen Township was organized as East Allen Township. General Brown continued to serve our nation when he was elected as Northampton County 1st Pennsylvania Senator. This highly respected citizen and soldier died February 26, 1823, and was buried here in Horner's Cemetery. So, this is James King's stone. And I think that he died in 1745, though it's hard to read here. And this is what makes this the oldest cemetery in Northampton County. Right here. And It's just very hard to see. Well, you know, it does say April. Oh, I don't see the actual day. Maybe 30th, 1745. Right there. We really enjoyed coming back to this cemetery, and we hope you loved this video too. And if you did, please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you real soon. And thank you to each and every one of the people who take care of this beautiful cemetery, so that everyone in here can have a very peaceful rest.